Well, we just got on and we just started, didn't we? We just connected really
Yes,
strong. And it seems like a real resonance between us already. So thank you for the invitation.
absolutely. It truly is an honor. It really is. I've heard you speak a number of times, and there's a lot I want to dive into with you. So if it's okay with you, I would like to just go straight in.
Do it. Let's do it. Go to the deep end of the pool.
Perfect, perfect.
Okay.
So I definitely want to get to, the mass awakening that's taking place, kind of your thoughts on that, prophecies and all of that. Before we get there though, I want to talk about your personal awakening because you were like full force before 2019 and then um everything just changed from that point. And I would just, as much or as little as you would like to share, I would just and start wherever it makes the most sense. But talk to us about your awakening because I know it kind of came in waves.
It comes in waves for all of us. So we all
Everyone.
can say we're awakening, right?
Yeah.
And so I've had a series of family deaths, tragic family deaths over the last 7 years. Lost like seven family members in 7 years. And I had my own near death in 19. And I thought, that really was an awakening for me. Um, However, 3 years later, my daughter would pass, my only daughter at 33 years old, and would shatter my world
I'm so
to the
sorry.
to the core. And I didn't know that I was going to be able to navigate it at all. I have done so much spiritual work on myself my whole life. Everywhere I travel, every shaman and elder tells me I used to be a shaman there in a past life. Like I've been around forever. And I don't think I've ever woken up fully. I've been a great spiritual teacher and done all that kind of thing. But this actually brought me down to ground zero and showed me how um, little grounding I had. And that was a eye opener because I've always been super focused and on purpose and know my mission and channel from the star nations and on and on and on. And I just felt like I was in a quagmire, quicksand, and I was going down. And it was because I'm a channel. I've been a channel for many, many years that I hoped that my daughter would be communicating with me right away. And that didn't happen. And my daughter was estranged the last 9 months of her life due to me confronting her about her alcohol. And and so I heard the news like 24 hours before she would pass and
Mm.
didn't make it from Hawaii by about 5 minutes to enter the hospital in Alaska. So my world completely collapsed. And it was an amazing psychic in Austria. My partner's Austrian, and there's a very renowned psychic there. And I thought, I need somebody to help me now because this is what I do for others, but I can't seem, I'm just so blocked.
Mm.
And during that transmission, Sierra did come through and gave me quite a bit of detail about where I needed to go and how I needed to progress. And she asked me to start automatic writing with her, which is a skill set that I teach others, but I've never needed it because I'm a trance medium. Lo and behold, my daughter became my instant teacher from the reverse role. She was completely awakened and she was crystal clear about our
Mm.
relationship, about my struggles, about what was going on for me and how to navigate it. And I was desperate. I was absolutely desperate. I sat in my bed, lit a candle, and just called her in, weeping and wailing on my bed. And I would smell her come into the room. I would feel her grab my hand. She was a great writer, and she would just go. And I was spellbound.
Mm.
And I was on my knees saying, "Don't leave me. Like, just tell me what I need to do here." And it was about a year and a half process. That book will be released in another year, so I'm still working on that book. That is basically her book that she's written,
Wow.
and it's the dialogue between a desperate mother and an awakened child. And
Mm.
the teachings were so. deep and rich for me, and the practices that she gave me. And this is what I'll be teaching in our Lost to Love project for parents, which is so little, and there were so little resources for me when it happened that I was stunned by that. You know, I had been doing this work before, but because it never happened to me, I had no idea. I was apologizing to every parent I ever counseled, you know, that I knew jack shit about what was really happening. And so I took this journey with her, and it was a year and a half later, I mean, you know, that I had what I would call my true awakening. And from that moment on, everything's been dissolved. I think the hardest thing to navigate, believe it or not, is spiritual ego, because you think you know, and you become someone, and da 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 da, and then you know, you get the Zen stick, as they say in the East. And I just, the awakening was so total. It was 8 hours in my own bed. It turned to light. My body turned to light, and I knew that everything that I had ever done was all a dream, and uh, it was meaningless, because
Mhm.
this was the real me, and it was instantaneous. You know, I've been following Eastern mysticism and been a sannyasin, and you know, knew this path of devotion to this infamous enlightenment, but I never really understood, like, what does this really mean? I mean, you mean an instant you know who you are? Like, it was nice theory, but and when it happened, it was a recognition beyond any lifetime. It was a recognition of my instant knowing of the truth, and not from any cerebral philosophy, or even a very deep meditation where I felt light, or, you know, no, this was like, you know, cracked through everything, every lifetime. And I wept for hours. You know, people thought, oh, I'm laying there blissed out. No, I was weeping that
Mm.
I had been fooled for so long. It was like a sorrow. And and then this light, which took over almost every part of my body except for my lower body, my lower legs. And that was a message that of where I am now. It said, these legs have not walked light before. It's the light actually said. And to me, that means I haven't fully embodied it all the way to my toes yet. Um, and there was this omnipotent voice. It wasn't a channeled voice. It was my oversoul. It was myself, my true essence, trying to communicate with this little ego that was flying around the light like a mosquito, trying to like grapple with what just happened. And what am I then, you know? And it was like, you know. And from that day forward, that was 2 years ago now, um, it's changed everything for me. And it's because my whole life was so goal oriented. This infamous thing I was going for is what I did every bit of my work for, what I served for. And then it was gone. Like, well, if I already am what I'm searching for, then what? And that was very, very destabilizing for months afterwards, trying to go, okay, this is the life I created. It's not needed anymore, because I did it all for this, and now this is arrived. So now what? So that's been a very profound um, awakening, that there's nothing you can do because you already are. So it's the conundrum of it all, and so that was a deepening process that I'm in now, a real deepening of that, penetrating my relationships with my partner, with my organization, with my friends, with the world, and just stripping everything down, stripping it all down. And that has been such a beautiful process for me, that I was the one, and I still teach the five sacred purposes. And I lost all meaning and purpose in this process, all of it,
Mhm.
when Sierra passed. And I thought that was the worst possible thing. And when I laid there in my awakening, the voice said you needed to lose all meaning and purpose because there isn't any.
Mm.
And that just blew my doors. That's like, and I said, well, will I ever want to do anything anymore? Only if it's in delight was the answer. Only if it's in delight. But you can't get more or less enlightened from it. That again, incinerated everything I was taught to believe about karma, about Christianity, which I was raised in, about earning heaven, about coming back and paying back, and all of these um, deeply entrenched philosophies and belief systems of our collective consciousness. And it uprooted it. It just usurped it. And I was like totally spun in the ego, because this may be triggering anybody that's listening to it. Triggered me. Like, I can't believe that.
Yes.
And I'm not asking anybody to believe nothing. You know, your experience is yours. I may be a total layer of another level of ego. Who knows? And in that moment, it was perfection.
Mm.
It was perfection. Every line that came from the light was perfection, or my light, or the light, or whatever. And it was perfection because I felt every ounce of that through my energy field as an absolute. And that's how I understand things, is from that resonance. And it got me thinking, and this is a long-winded answer, so I'm going to wrap it up here so we can ask more questions. But
You're fine.
whatchamacallit, the underlying thing to karma and being saved or whatever path you're on, um, is the idea that we're not good enough to begin with, and we need to work on ourselves. And really, the only work on ourselves that there is just getting rid of the lie. I mean, and that sounds like, oh, that's just getting rid of the lie. Well, that's the biggest work there is, because the ego's so thick.
Yes.
And I'm not claiming any, guru awakening. I'm realizing the truth of my existence. And that's penetrating my ego and my generational ancestry that's in my DNA, that I've been working on for many, many years, to clear that karmic record of generational trauma and all these. So there's this undoing. And one of my board members one day said, "Oh, you reached this space because of all the work you did on it yourself." I said, "No,
Mm.
that's ego. That's more of it. That's just bullshit." Because I could have gotten hit by a truck.
Mm.
I watched these NDEs on YouTube, the near death experiences, the good channels that are not like these made up stories. And it's exactly my experience, except I call mine a near life experience instead of a near death experience. But even my own near death did not bring uh, my piercing of my ego. My daughter's death did.
Mm.
And I said, all the months afterwards, when I was on my knees, I said, she didn't die that day. I died that day. I died that day. And I thought that was the most terrible thing in the whole universe. And I realized when I had my awakening that that was my breakthrough. And here I am, navigating that in as much authenticity as I can. I'm just a simple woman walking the path and holding that space inside myself. And so it has helped me tremendously to not detach from non-feeling, because that's where a lot of spirituality goes,
Mm.
but from being a silent witness and also fully participating in the dream of this existence and all its emotions, and what's going on in my relationship right now, what's going on in my work, and how it's spinning me because I don't have this identity to grab hold of that I used to. I may be doing some of the same things, but it doesn't have the same punch because that's no longer there. And it just has to come from this sweet place of joy inside my heart, and for no other reason, not helping anyone, no ego of, oh, I'm spreading the medicine, and just all of that. That was so big in my, I toured the world for 20 years in
Mm.
20 countries, you know and now it comes from such a different place, um, of just, do I want to share that? Is that making the joy in my heart grow? And I've always been of service, and that probably won't change, but it doesn't have the same meaning at all to me. I'm not here to awaken anyone.
Mm.
I'm here to share this juicy uh, existential light that penetrates all our suffering. So just in my summary of all that, I would say whatever you're facing, whatever initiations, because that's how our native people would view it. It is not, you're not a victim, of these things happening to you, whether it's globally, whether it's locally, it's your job, it's your relationship that's suffering or whatever. Is that these are initiations.
Mm.
That's how our indigenous people view them. And that was the only thing that helped me during, the greatest human tragedy, which is the loss of a child. And is that I knew I was being initiated. I just couldn't understand it. And when Sierra helped to explain that to me, and the light, because she told me I would be awakened, but still in the body, that she couldn't do that. She had to break through the barrier of her physicality that was programmed with so many uh, wounds and beliefs, that she broke her glass ceiling and that everything's great. She's there. She's refusing me to tell anybody that I lost her, or that she's dead. Just stop. It's not true. I'm talking to you every day. Stop. I just broke my body so that I could wake up. That's it. You know,
Wow.
and she said, you're going to get there, but you're going to stay in the body. And I said, bullshit. Excuse my French or whatever. I said, no, thanks, honey, but I'm not that. This is, this is the end of me. I don't know. And it took a year and a half from that sentence, she said. And she guided me on how to get there,
Mm.
which again is not, it's nothing you can do. None of us can do anything because it's already there. But she gave me processes, and she gave me ceremonies, and she gave me breath work, and she gave me teachings, and the things lined up on this day, which I wasn't expecting at all. It was like
Wow.
out of the field that this happened the way it did. And so, I just say to everybody, you're an initiate, and the world is collapsing around us right now because it's a dream that we're having and we've created it. It's a nightmare we've created. But part of that is that all of the great mystics that ever lived usually went through a crucifixion, whether it be Christ, if you're into Amici, if you want to know what her life was like in the early years, or Gandhi, or anybody, they went through deep suffering in the human condition. And all of us go through those initiations, and it either rises us or we fall in them, and we get fully identified, and we get physically ill and get cancer, and on and on and on. And so those are very pivotal uh, pieces that we plant in our journey. And I, on a human level, never in a million years would I ever call this in. Shoot me first.
Mm.
And but spiritually, I have to be honest that I must have, for my many lives intention to awaken. And it's easy to stay asleep when everything's peachy keen and you're making good money and you're comfortable in your life and people love you. And it's only when you face hell
Mm.
that you can pierce something of the human condition. And not everybody can. Not everybody can rise in those, but everybody has the opportunity to. And that's where I am now, is just feeling humbled and more grounded to be able to share that, especially with bereaved parents.
Yeah.
Most bereaved parents do not make it out. They die within 5 years of their child, or they're on
Mm,
antidepressants for the rest of their life, especially mothers.
yeah.
I'm dealing with them. I'm on 17 different Facebook pages with like 30,000 parents watching this story unfold, this horror, and that I've transited that. I never say I'm completely over it or anything like that, because that's not human. Um, but I have been able uh, to rise through it, and that's still going on. One day I'm still in the old and in the new, and um, but always with the witness, always with my presence there.
Mm.
And I said that when I was laying there that day to the light. I said, but I'm still grieving, so I must not have woken up. And the light said, just invite the light there. Just invite it. Let it penetrate in its own time. You can't make it happen.
That's
It will
right.
it'll penetrate it, but not from your ego and not from your resistance, right? It's just a presence, and eventually that presence um, builds inside us as our true essence and breaks through the layers of unreality. Because she keeps saying to me, it's false, Mom. And you keep believing. She told me it was like Columbus that thought the world was flat, and you're hanging on to an untruth.
Mm,
So I just sit in that humility.
yeah.
It's ongoing.
Mm,
If here we're growing and we're learning and letting this penetrate us deeper. And we drew in this collective awakening we're in now, this mega drama, right? That's going on
absolutely.
the world stage.
Going back to what you were saying about the collapse and, things crumbling and it being a process, it looking different for all of us, but it is happening on a collective scale. So I just would love, and again, take this in any direction. And there's a million different narratives of what's going on, and I would just love your take on it. And yeah, anything that in terms of prophecies. There's a million. I mean, there's the Hopi prophecies. I know you've talked to grandmothers in the past.
First and foremost, that this is not the only time this has happened on the planet.
Yeah.
The planet has gone through major cycles. In the East, they have the Kali Yugas, these massive cycles. So we are in a like 26,000 year cycle that is coming to a new pulse. Well, the Hopis talk about the previous worlds that we've had, and that each of the worlds were destroyed by one of the elements. The biblical flood was, of course, the water element. And now this world will be destroyed by all elements. That's why we have the climate change story that we do, the volcanoes and the floods. And, we're experiencing all of that. And this is part of the purification or tribulation that the Bible talks about. And it is to pierce humanity's separation from each other and from the dream of Gaia herself, like the
Mm,
dream of Mother Earth. Our people totally understand what that means, of aligning to the dream of Mother Earth. And I think there's been a resurgence of medicines that are helping people out of deep depression, out of terrible physical symptoms that have been, excuse me, manufactured by our governments. Now it's biological warfare. And so all of this heating up of the world, and people are so afraid the world is going to collapse. It is collapsing. It's an unsustainable dream.
mm,
It is not the dream of Gaia. It's unsustainable on every level, whether you're talking emotionally, physically, environmentally, psychologically, it's unsustainable. And so anything that's unsustainable is going to collapse. But the most important part of this is, yes, it is collapsing because it's never been earth resonant. It's never been fully heart resonance or consciousness resonant. And that's the invitation that's within it. You know, Japanese say the word crisis means danger plus opportunity, right? So we're in danger. We're an endangered species right now. I mean, what's going on in our political realm in this country, you know, we could have nuclear fallout anytime. So for me, it's like facing death, facing the end, facing the annihilation, and cooperating with it. What part of me needs to die? What needs to be incinerated in this process so that I can become more resonant with the dream of Gaia? And individually, for me, there are things that have come back into our awareness that people are gravitating towards in this time. And we're going to speak to crystal skull method. We're going to speak to plant medicines, things that people are that's coming into full consciousness and use, because these cut right through the layers without having to, you know, what I had to experience as a child. But some may have to go through these big initiations with their personal lives, their family, their home being burned to the ground or flooded. I teach on Hawaii. I was there for so many of the lava flows that took my friends' homes. That there is an initiatory process that each one of us has to go through. And the important part is the emergence. This is what Sierra speaks to. My daughter's name is Sierra. And she speaks to this emergence, that there's nothing dying. It's just an emergence of a new
Mm.
layer, right? So nothing ever dies in the universe, and it just keeps morphing. And we get so attached to the end of something. And
Mm.
that's the flat earth analogy, right? It ends and you fall off.
Right.
And no, it's round and it keeps going and it spirals and we go higher and deeper. So I feel that to welcome our initiations when they come and to get guidance on how to navigate those initiations has been the teachers that I say are the purest teachers. So, you know, working with the pure medicines is something has always been in the indigenous understanding and mind. And the Eastern, you know, worked so much with plant medicines also as the golden teachers that they are. Because then we experience ourselves face to face with our divinity, maybe for the first time. Mine came through this experience. Others, and I have been facilitating plant medicine work. We will in Peru here again in October, because that has to be done in such a proper way. Everybody's misusing things, and then you know
Yeah.
they become another ego spiral. To pierce that veil and to open that reality. And one moment, you know, Osho always spoke of this, one of I'm a sannyasin, um, and Osho always talked about this, whatever you think about this controversial guy, but I always say it's not about the teacher, it's about the practices and the teachings, that if you become the, you know, he always said, I'm just the finger pointing at the moon, not the moon. Oh, it's about you having your awakening. And he always said that you, if you just had one moment, you know, literally 60 seconds of an awakening, you know, that's all it's needed. Imagine that, 60 seconds of seeing fully. He said your whole ego, your whole structure would fall. And I never understood that until it happened. The moment it happened here, it was an instant. It was an instant recognition. And everyone that's had near death experiences talks about the same, that their consciousness got it in a split second. And I watched this last one about this electrician guy, you know, really kind of rednecky kind of character, not very spiritual, and him talking like a new ager, you know, after this, like,
Wow.
you know, and people have these deep recognitions instantaneously. Doesn't matter what their lives have been up till that point. And these aren't a quick fix by any method at all.
Mm.
These are a first moment of recognition, and that strength will then help you navigate um, and pierce the veil of your initiations with much more grace. I mean, I just was watching a documentary on, now, of course, the West thinks it's found plant medicines for depression and anxiety and all this. And it's like our people have been doing this since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
It's entering the collective, and it's entering in a better way than when I was born in the 1960s and everybody was doing LSD. Because it was not done in the right context. It was synthesized. There wasn't medicine people to help you integrate that experience, and
Mm.
people spun out. They just spun out into addiction, and that's because they were misused and they were synthesized. So there is, because if you really work with a plant medicine, a pure plant medicine, they're not addictive because they make you work. The follow-up takes you through all of your illusions. And that's the way it was meant for. That's why they were called teacher plants. You're
Mm.
meant to do a ceremony and integrate it for a year and a day, we call it. Like, to get your consciousness more aligned to the truth. And that is where I am in the integration of what happened to me. And it's been challenging because it had to, I have to question all these other things that I have been doing and being and speaking and acting. So it's a choice to be able to move deeper into that light. And there are a million ways. I'm not saying plant medicine's the path. No, it's one of many ways. But there's a quickening happening, I will say, through medicines. Um, and I believe that our crystal skull method, which I look forward to chatting with you about, um, was given, it was all channeled for this time to bring in that quantum efficiency without medicine that we could do on ourselves, we can do on each other. And it was substance free of anything, but your own intention and energetic field being, the electromagnetic field being opened in you for not only your spiritual awareness, but for your full health and longevity. I think that's where we are. We're in that juncture,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? And people are waking up in more rapid rates. They have the prophecies I'll speak to that pointed to this happening. We are in those prophecies that the indigenous people have, that I, as an indigenous person, will always gravitate to those teachings, as well as my initiations in the Eastern medicines. So those two are two-part prophecy that talks about the coming together of East and West. And we see that, right? We know that's happened because we have yoga here. Yogananda came in the 1920s, right? And so we have all those Eastern practices now united in the West. And now the second part of that prophecy was the North and South coming together, the eagle and the condor,
Mm.
representing North, Central, and South America. And why we're having border issues right now is
Wow.
that's the unification process we are in. And it's more than place, on the map of the earth of the four directions, which are the whirling rainbow prophecies of the coming together of the races. It is also a personal meaning. So they have in Hawaiian Huna, they would call that the kauna. That is the hidden meaning of those prophecies.
Hmm.
And they are personal. The eagle is the symbol of our country. It's the right wing. It's the masculine. It's the doer in us. The left wing is the feminine, the condor, the receptive. And it's the only bird that flies higher than the eagle, which
Hmm.
is a very powerful metaphor, that it's the feminine that allows us to go higher.
Wow.
Okay. So there are teachings that about the opening of the heart. And of course, when you soar as a bird, you're outstretched like this. So both wings have to be fully open. The heart has to be fully open. So there are layers to those teachings. But just on the physical level, we know that the East and the West is complete. That prophecy talked about when the iron bird flies and horses run on wheels, which is, of course, the era that we're in. And that the red robed people of the East would be exiled to the land of the red man, and the Dharma would be spread upon the earth. So the Dalai Lama was exiled to the land of the United States, to the land of the red man, and the Dharma, which is yoga, qigong, every Eastern practice, would be spread here. The teachings again through initiation, right? Through initiation. You know, the Chinese occupation, the torture brought the teachings here. And now we've got this North and South dilemma of North, Central, and South America, the border issues, and on, for the unification of the eagle and condor. And that we are
Mm.
navigating that now. So, and they say that prophecy is when they come together to shed a tear,
Mm.
the healing of nations will begin. And we were part of those initial ceremonies in 2011 when all the elders of North, Central, and South America met in Peru in a temple site in Cusco called Saxia Woman. It's the temple of the head of the puma. And that was symbolic because there's three levels of cosmology in Peruvian shamanism. The upper is the condor, the upper world. The middle world, the world we live in, is the puma, and the lower world is the serpent. So when the gathering came and they chose that temple, they said it's here in the middle world. That means it's
Mm.
now. It's not a prophecy for the future. It's not in the unconscious. It's surfaced into the now. And that was 2011. And most of those Eagle and Condor conferences and ceremonies that the elders were gathering were for about 5-7 years in there from 2010 to about 2018. Those were peaking all over the world. The
Wow.
elders came forward about that, particularly in the Americas. And we were a part of that. Grandmother Drum was built for that prophecy and traveled to do that work. So we know we're here, you know, and we know we're in that fulcrum of these times. And you know, we can take that into ourselves, and we can take comfort in that the crisis is our opportunity, um, because we have to be pierced. You know,
Mm.
there's a piercing of the ego that has to take place, and unfortunately, you know, that's the human condition. Um, but we can honor it as a sacred rite of passage. We can honor it. And all of the work that I do around the world is to honor our initiations and to consciously face our initiations as much as possible. And I think that that's the gift of shamanism. Is it's beyond analysis of therapy and emotional healing, and it's all of it: earth, air, fire, water, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. It contains that in those four directional teachings.
What advice do you have for those who are really struggling to accept whatever it is that has shown up?
It is a big question, and it is not an easy question to answer for anyone. But I feel that for me, embracing the death, you know, I had to fully be real. You can't skip it and go, well, spiritually, it's an initiation. Like, you have to go through. And it was messy. I always say that birth is messy and death is messy. It's a messy business. So that it's not just clean, oh, follow these three steps, you know. And they talk about the grief process, you know, and they have these arrows to all the different feelings, because it's so nonlinear. It's to be authentic in your process. Don't try to skip around the corner, because it'll always come back, that you haven't actually realized that step. And to not avoid your human feelings, but to also welcome. And this is what's here, the light told me, welcome the light there, you know, welcome presence there.
Yeah.
Don't get so identified with everything you're feeling bring in some kind of witness, some kind of light. And that could be a person that you really admire who has presence that can be your witness through your grief process and your suffering process. That may be what that holds spiritual presence for you. Not, oh yeah, it's really awful, but something a greater, and it's not even in words. It's a presence that I can mirror to you. And one of the most powerful things that I would suggest for people in this is do an exercise with one other person and do it for 15 minutes. Talk about whatever you want. And that other person can only look into your eyes. No smiles, no affirming nods, nothing. We call it the empty mirror exercise. One of the most profound things I do in workshops because nobody's ever been listened to for 15 minutes. People after 10 like sit there and they go, I don't know what to say anymore, you know. And the other person can't do anything. They just can continue to look in their eyes. This is presence. I usually do it for 20 minutes where one person speaks, one listens, and a third one scribes the wisdom coming out of that person. And the wisdom emerges. It emerges from that person within 10 minutes of the 20. People go from the victim of themselves and their story to the higher self that comes online and says, I think this is because X, Y, and Z. Everybody has the answers. Everybody has the truth in them. They just have to hold the presence long enough for it to emerge. So I call this the empty mirror. It's an hour exercise. You do it for 20 minutes and then you rotate. The next person listens to you and the third person scribes. People get the answers to their life. 20 minutes. And it's this presence of our eternity. And you can say, meditation will help you. This is a form of meditation. Remember, we can't do meditation. Whatever we do and say we're meditating, that is an exercise to get us prepared for maybe having an experience of presence. There's a little, oh, we did breath work and then we did this. And those are preparations. Meditation is your essential nature. It's transcendental to your ego and all of its experiences. And we want to set a place at the table for that, because that's the answer for all of it. That split second, that 1 minute that Osho talks about, 1 minute of presence will pierce everything. And we can hold that for one another. And that's what we're always facilitating in our work, is the sacred space of being. Because our enlightenment is being. We're a human being. There's no doing. If we're doing, we're still in the ego. And doing's fine if it helps us to get our mind out of the way. You know, we do these exercises to help get our mind out of the way so that we can experience ourselves like we did as a child in that innocence and that purity. But it takes, you know, it takes consciousness to do that. So I would say that's what helped me through this hardest initiation I've ever had to navigate, is that yes, I was angry at my friends. I was angry at so many people for not being there for me. I was livid. My wife was like, you're a peace worker around the world and you're like angry at everybody. Could you deal with that? No, they stink and roar. And I had to pass through that because it was authentic. I didn't say, I'm a spiritual leader, I can't feel that. No, I was pissed. I moved through that because what's underneath that, if we study grief work, we know from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, one of the most famous grief workers of all time, that the first stage is denial of our initiation. I'm not just talking about death, because death is the initiation. It's a death of us. So we can just look to grief work for that. Is denial. Move out of the denial. The denial is a period when it's actually too much sensory for our physical energy fields to handle. So I'm not telling people they should not be in denial. They will be for a period of time. It's a numbness because it's just like shock when somebody lifts a car, you know, off a body, right? And we go into shock. Is that fight or flight frozen energy because the system is overloaded. The parasympathetic and sympathetic system that operates our nervous system, the sympathetic goes like off the charts. and the death of his child is over the top. So there is a period. Then there's the anger, which I was experiencing, right? Anger at everybody, because that means I don't have to feel what's next, which is the excruciating pain that's underneath that. That's when I become authentic. That's when I can heal. The other two stages are temporary to get to my healing. And even in the sadness, I don't want to get fully identified there because you can stay there forever. That has to be a stepping stone too, to let consciousness give us the meaning of that initiation for us.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the presence, the divine oversoul, the God, the goddess, the higher self, however you understand that. If it's your faith in God, let it be that. That understanding in your soul of divinity, let that divinity come through now to guide you, to navigate this, and to see its purpose for you in the awakening for you. And I think if we stay that course from numbness and denial into anger, which we're seeing so much of on the planet, the Republicans, the Democrat, the Trump, the this, the that, the anger at the other for causing the problem. And then we drop into the deep sorrow of our separation from each other. And calling immigrants this or that, or the deep separation that we are collectively in. We have to feel that, or whatever it is for you that pierces you. And then there is how does God answer this prayer? How does God deal with this? And this is the birthing of unconditional love, right? Forgiveness and unconditional love. So these are the steps of that process, and they have to be authentic to you, But I just say, don't get stuck in any one of those processes.
Yes.
That's what I told people when I was touring Australia, and I was there for Sari business when it was the anniversary of many of the stolen generation of Aboriginal children. I landed on that day in 2002 into the country with Grandmother Drum. And I met elders, Aboriginal elders that were very, very angry, because of the horrific genocide.
Mm.
And I totally felt with them, and I
Mm-hmm.
merged with that, and I felt it within my body. And little did I know that would be, 20 years, almost to the month of when I would lose my own child.
Wow.
So I was being initiated back then
Wow.
by watching and being part of and supporting people through that process. And then I would get my turn. But that day, I also met elders who had transcended their anger and their separation about the white people did this to us story, and had gone to the next shore. And they asked me to speak at one of their conferences, the Sari conferences, and I said, what I see is that this is a rightful step. This anger is a rightful step. But don't stop there. You're not at the other shore yet.
Mm.
And these elders, we speak about them with a lowercase e in indigenous cultures. Everybody who's over a certain age is an elder. But then there's the elders, uppercase E. And that's who everybody goes to in the village for spiritual guidance, because they have transcended that. They've made the step, and it was excruciating. I met these elders who were stolen as children from their mothers, and they were returned late. Uncle Bob, that I worked with for so many years, he returned to the village. His mother was dead. They're horror stories, these people lived through, and I only now really totally understand their experience from my not their experience, but my experience of it. But this was my training ground. This brokenness was my training ground, and I watched the ones that had risen, and I looked to them for guidance. And you have them in your community. You have them. We all have those elders in our community, and they don't need to be over 60 to be an elder. We know those wisdom keepers who have the spiritual presence, and we invite them into our circle, especially during these times, that they can show us a little bit more about the presence And for me, it's not about a guru or teacher, because that person, if they're authentic, would only lead you to yourself. That would only
Absolutely.
point at you, because you are the guru, and you have that within you. It's just latent, and someone who might help stimulate that for you, or just like I said, I'm looking at you right now, and I'm just looking into your eyes, even on the screen, and just holding my presence for you, right? That contact of soul to soul in Celtic spirituality, which I'm obviously part Irish, and it's the gaze. We call it the gaze, the stare, into the soul. The eyes being the window to the soul. Where is your light? I know it's in there. I see it. It's your eternity. Um, so we all have different initiations. I don't invoke this for anybody at all, that you will
Yeah.
learn. I just think I'm a slow learner. So the
I
universe said,
hear you
okay,
on
give her it all, just give her it all.
that.
She's a thick ego, give her another one. Um, so I have to have a sense of humor about all of that.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't for a long time when it was happening.
Mm,
Uh, and I'm still transiting the impact of all of that
of
into my
course.
work, my body, and what happened with my body. Um, and that's a piece that I think is also very, very important, to healing from trauma and extreme trauma, which is the somatic portion of it. And those are teachings that I'm thrilled to share, especially with bereaved parents, about feeling like you had part of your body removed,
Mm,
which is different than grief, and it's different from trauma. I'm the only one that I know of that has identified it. It's not anywhere I tried researching, and no one had any information on it. And so when I was going through it, I felt like somebody had cut my belly out. Like I had terrible distension in my belly, and I felt like a three-legged tripod that lost one of its legs, and I was totally physically off balance in walking. And I read these posts on Facebook of mothers, and I just started to extrapolate all that information into a paper. I wrote, like, what are women saying? This woman said, I can't walk, I'm in a wheelchair since my daughter passed, my legs won't work. These are not grief and trauma symptoms, these are something else. And so I sat by a lake in Alaska for a week, and asked Spirit to give me the name of this experience, and how I can address it, because I was actually having more problems from those experiences, a feeling of doom, a feeling of bleeding out to death, that was very visceral. Sorry to be so gory, but it
no.
was true. It was the truth. And I got the word from Spirit as dismemberment. So parents
Wow.
experiencing dismemberment. And the only thing that I found that was even close to this through psychological papers was that they call the amputee syndrome of Vietnam vets, where they
Yeah,
still feel pain. Um,
absolutely.
so, and because mothers share cells and stem cells and everything with their child, um, this was the part that Sierra helped me the most with my physicality, and this terrible doom. you know I had it in multiple places, mostly in my womb, but also in my heart and in one of my arms. I literally was saying to my wife, I feel like my arm has been cut off, I'm laying on the ground bleeding to death, and everybody's walking by going, you're okay. And I'm like, I'm bleeding to death. I mean, it was very literal for me. So these are the teachings, these are the practices that I think, in order to heal from trauma, we can't just do therapy with our mind. We have to do somatic work in the body, um, to reweave the fractured energy systems of dismemberment, what I'm calling dismemberment. Um, so there is always addressing all layers. We can't just understand it. It's not enough. The body has to be recalibrated as well. And this takes, honesty and tools. And bless my daughter for giving me the tools, because
Yeah.
I couldn't figure it out. And I've done a million breath works, I've taught everything, and it wasn't quite working. And so she gave me these specific ones that I could do to remember myself and bring her threads back into me on a physical level that I created her externally with. Yeah.
Wow.
So these things are very, very important. And I think our practices now have to go to the next level, which brings me to why the grandparents channeled to me starting in 2017 um, Crystal Skull Method. Crystal Skull Method, or CSM as we call it, is a hands-on energy method to activate the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, the thalamus and hypothalamus in the brain, and then systematically bring the light of our consciousness into every system, into every chakra, into every energy center through a series of sacred geometry patterns. Some of the most ancient patterns, not only of sacred geometry, but how our brain and body and heart actually work. Okay, so what we're doing is taking the best of all of the esoteric teachings of the body that were a fallout from me channeling Crystal Skull. I wasn't an acupuncturist. I didn't know about Ayurvedic marmas. These were not my skill sets. And when I channeled this method from the grandmothers and grandfathers that have been working with me since I was a small child in the spirit world, I call them the Star Nations. And we could get into detail on that, but just not going down that rabbit hole today. But I learned in my first channelings to the first group that decided to come and be at the altar of these teachings. I literally organized a workshop of it, and I didn't know what it was. And people trust my work enough that 7 women came to be in that inner circle, and one of them was a 40-year acupuncturist, and she says, oh, you know, they're giving you some of the main meridians of acupuncture, the main juncture points as well. And I'm like, oh, interesting. So what we've learned is that we really have brought together the map of the human energy field from all of the great esoteric knowledge. Chinese medicine, 5,000 years old, Ayurveda, 12,000 years old and older, and brought them together to then take them to the next level of their capability. Because we're not working with meridians in this, we're working with the interior of the brain stem, and primarily activating the gland of light. I am the light, you are the light, which is your pineal gland, your gland of melatonin, serotonin. They now have discovered there's pineal lights in there, which are crystalline.
Huh.
And that when the baby's in utero, one of the first things that forms in the brain is this tiny little light. You can see it in the embryo. And that is the light of consciousness. And it's been given many names in all of the ancient modalities. The pituitary gland, the temple of Isis, it was called, because that's the master gland of our hormones. So we activate the pineal, pituitary, thalamus, and hypothalamus in a sequence of sacred geometry that then link it to all the other centers of the body. So we work with 32 different points in the energy field. And we work with them in a dual way. Instead of acupuncture or marmas, where it's a single finger or a needle, we're working with 2 poles of the same energy. So we're able to create an electromagnetic field for stimulating the light bulb in the head, like the stimulating, we always say that, you know, with the cartoon with the light bulb going on, that's the pineal lighting up. That's our consciousness lighting up. And what does that mean? That's awareness. That's the presence. But that presence can't just be in the head, right? It
Mhm.
has to be in the whole body. And that's what happened when the light didn't go down past my knees. It didn't go down to my feet yet. Okay, that's symbolic, you know. I haven't walked it fully yet. So this modality is a hands-on method, and that we're training people to become certified in level 1, 2, and 3 of this practice. Like other modalities, it has a sequence to it. For instance, Rolfing has a 9-session sequence. This has a 9-session sequence, and utilizes the client the receiver, we don't like to call it a client because it's just the receiver of it, is sitting, is not lying down. So this is a very conscious, it's not like go off and go into meditation somewhere, that your meditation is your presence in your daily life. You're sitting and you're alert. And the person who gives and the person who receives goes through the equal energy of it. It can be done on yourself, not as easy because some of the points are in the back of your body and you can't reach those. So it's better to do it in tandem with someone.
Hmm.
And we utilize a lot of the energy systems of these other practices, like mudras. Like the receiver is going through various mudras while they're receiving so that that energy goes through certain circuitry. We're using certain
Wow.
fingers on the head and on the rest of the body to activate certain energies. And this is, of course, Eastern mysticism, that each finger represents an element. Okay. So
Mhm.
when the Eastern guru puts their thumb on your third eye, right? That's called Shakti put, like, boom, I'm going to transmit my enlightenment to you, right? You've seen that in whether it's Osho, whether it's Mother Mira, like all of the Eastern mystics, that's how you get a transmission. Well, that's fire. The thumb is fire. So that's fire to fire, fire to fire. And we only use that in level 2. We don't even use this finger in level 1 because
Mm,
people aren't ready for that yet.
mm.
Okay. So, and then you have air. And believe it or not, our middle finger that we throw at people, that's spirit. That's ether. The
Wow.
ring finger, we know because that's how we make a physical bond. That's earth and water. So we use these because we never want to heat the brain. We don't want to like heat up somebody's brain if it's getting too warm, and we're using a spirit finger to activate those points, then we will cool it down by using an earth or a water finger to help ground that energy that the person can integrate it. It's not about expanding. It's about expanding enough to be able to integrate that in practical ways. And the training involves 9 days for level 1. And after you are do that training, then there's a certification period where you have to do some case studies and do some practices because
Wow.
breath work goes along with it. But these are user friendly. These are like, go home and do it. You can have it. You can have it. It's yours. It's your birthright. And it activates DMT in the brain very much the same as plant medicine. That is not hard to learn it. And you're going to see how all of the esoteric teachings of all the past, including the mythos of the Christ and the crucifixion and the resurrection, and what that actually means in crucify means to amplify.
Hmm.
So these are processes of how the enlightenment process happens. And they're in all esoteric teachings. And I bring all of them together in our manuals and in our training so people can see the truth was already right there. And the practices are coming back. And this one is unifying them and taking them to another level. And it's taken 7 years and 1,000 pages of channelings and 1,000 pages of manuals for me to decode the entire thing. But in essence, that's the bigger picture that people may want to know about it. They don't need to know any of that to be able to do it and become practiced at it. It's just, it helps explain it in a scientific way because it's all uh, reinforced by neuroanatomy
Mm.
as well. It's all layered together. It's a map and it fits perfectly together. So it's exciting. It's been before us. It's a matter of synthesizing it and being able to um, take humanity through this quantum leap by opening up that presence in yourself. So I think, along with plant medicines that people have wandered into in this time, this is something you don't have to take plant. You don't lose control.
Mm.
You get to regulate how much of the energy you want to work with, because I'm not streaming anything as the facilitator. I don't stream. It's not Reiki. It's not a streaming of energy. You are doing, I'm teaching you how to activate it while I'm holding the points, and you're activating it yourself.
Wow.
It's all yours. Like, where they're doing the steps to hold the sequences together for you while you do it. And then when you go home, you can do the sequences yourself. Some of them, not all of them, because of, again, the back of the body, but it's instant. People have miraculous results. And I mean miraculous results. I know every method wants to claim something. We did 400 case studies to date, and these are all amateurs. These are trainees having to get their certification. And the client fills out a form a day, a week after their first session, and they just score themselves 1 through 10. Did I improve mentally, physically, emotionally, sexually, and spiritually? You just check the box. We have an average of 52% improvement in every area after a session. Now,
Wow.
that is, and that's the clients just scoring themselves. They don't have to do anything but fill it out to get a free session from the practitioner that's training. So there's nothing they have to say. They just fill it out, and then we just put that in a database, and that's our some of our research. And then we have research that is more subjective, like what people experience in each point and how it works for them. But I had a woman who was on antidepressants for 20 years come off after 2 sessions. Had a guy with a hearing aid who dropped his hearing aid after 2 sessions. Another person who had hemiplegic migraines. Another person who had brain surgery, could not see at all or have any experience except for a blackness when they closed their eyes. Full light coming into the consciousness. And another woman who was colorblind since an accident, so she did not see in color, eyes open or closed. I just did the first 4 points, and she was Technicolor. She was like, I'm on psychedelic." I'm like, "Yeah, you are. It's just we're doing this, user-friendly way." So we've had beautiful results. We do the sessions in person. We do them a distance online. I literally did one for a friend that son went into a terrible motorcycle accident and was in a coma. And I was friends with the husband, not the wife, because they were divorced. But I just offered my friend, I will do one just as a gift. So I contacted the mother and I said, I'm going to go into the session now. He was in the coma. And, I just used a mannequin so that I could work on something directly. And I got all this information about him that I didn't know anything about him. And then as soon as I finished, I texted her. I said, I just completed the session. I'll type up, what came during that session. She goes, he just opened his eyes for the first time.
Wow.
I was in Homer. He was in Anchorage, 6 hours away. Yeah. So we've had these kinds of things. My partner is working with somebody in Austria whose daughter has been suicidal.
Mm.
And she's doing sessions weekly. And the child doesn't even know what's happening. She's not like sitting there. The child doesn't even know the time or anything. And because when we work with the pineal gland, we're working with the gland of intention.
Mm.
We're sending something directly with light. It's quantum. This is the meaning of quantum, the speed of light. So it works. And it's so simple. It's complex in that, it has many layers of teachings. And we do tie it together so people know this is also an acupuncture point and what it's for in acupuncture. But those are meridians. It's not our specialty, but it also is reinforcing that when we touch these points, we're also touching those meridian junctures that have to do with digestion or balance or whatever they are. And so when
Wow.
people are taught, we teach them that so that if somebody's having those symptoms, they go, you can focus your awareness when you're working those points on the meridian. And you can do acupressure at the same time on those points that are related to migraines or this or that. So it's been an exciting work. It's been the culmination really of 40 years of my work, kind of coming together in this method, all the breath work, all the
Wow.
things that Sierra taught are all contained within this method. So, you know, we we did 7 years of development, and we just completed that. All 3 levels. We had students go through just a very small group, core group, while we were exploring it, and now it's about to go around the world. We're
Wow.
doing our first one in Austria this year and potentially Australia. So we want to put it in the hands of the people. It's your birthright to know who you are. And this is one of many, I'm sure, wonderful methods out there that are working with this. But this is such a consciousness, and you're participating. It's not somebody doing something. It's you're participating in this. You're working with that energy through the breath while the points are being held. You're learning how to activate that pineal gland yourself. Um, and then there's support things that go with that. Correct diet, cleansing, we bring all of that in to help purify the body for this container, to have a body of light. So I feel like this is a nice kind of bring it around, is that the initiations we are in are taking us from Homo sapien to Homo luminous. I am the light that I've been searching for out there in a million and one addictions, patterns, and egos. So it's the experience and the practices of quantum light that are coming into our awareness
Yeah.
to help usher us from Homo sapien into Homo luminous. So this year we have a couple of offerings for people if they want to go through some of those initiations, which is we go and do work with the Kiro shamans who have these rites of the Munaki and various other rites to help um, plant light seeds in the conscious mind and in the conscious body and all the chakras. These are initiatory practices. So we'll be there in the fall. And then, of course, Crystal Skull Method, which we'll be doing in spring and fall in different parts of the world. These are places where you can activate and learn how to activate that light on a regular basis to help you navigate what is falsely falling apart in your world, and to support you in that process with tools, with techniques, and with presence.
Just so everyone knows, I will have your website, your links to everything in the description. But just for in case someone's listening and they aren't able to get to the description, can you just share what your website is, and then if there's anything else important that you think they need to hear? This was lovely.
It's Whirling Rainbow. That's our foundation, whirlingrainbow.com. There is a section called shamanic training. That's where the CSM training is. And the Peru training is under that link. So shamanic training, and you'll see the different schools that we have. We have beautiful online programs. So if you can't travel and you want to do some work with us, I'm going to offer you a free gift for our spiritual sensuality program. And it's just a beautiful 8-week online program. And I get together, or my partner or other staff members get together with students on a regular basis every other month on a live Zoom call. I answer anything for anyone that wants to just jump in. And
Beautiful.
that you can do, and I'll give you the free link that you can get some free information. There's a lot of free videos and PDFs and everything on our website so that you can take the dive. And we're all over Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, blah, blah, blah. So you can put in White Eagle Medicine Woman, or you can put in Whirling Rainbow Foundation, and you'll find us. And we'd love to see you in person and love to hold presence for you and look in your eyes in this journey of that we're all on. Remember, no one's ahead and no one's behind,
Yeah,
because there is no time. So that's another ego trip. Oh, I'm new to this path. It's like we're all new to this path.
absolutely.
Well,
This
I'd
was
love to end with a
lovely.
breath work. I'd love to end with a
Yes.
breath. Okay.
Yes, please.
Let's do a heart one. We
Okay.
could do a CSM one, but we'll do a heart one because that's even simpler. This is called the breath of eternal life. Anybody who has high blood pressure, arrhythmia, stress, hot flashing, this is the cooling breath of the heart and helps you sleep if you have insomnia. So put your awareness at your heart, and this is super subtle. We're not doing this big, deep breathing thing. So it's the ha breath of aloha. So breathe in as if you could breathe in from the back of your heart and out the front in an effortless, relaxing ha. The next breath in, breathe from the front of the heart and as if you could breathe out the back of the heart. And if you can't do it, just imagine it. Next breath, breathe in from the left side of the heart, out the right. Slow and easy, very subtle. Next one, breathe in from the right side of the heart, out the left. Next breath, breathe up from the earth through the center of the body and the heart and out through the top of the head. And the final one, breathe from the top of the head down through the center of the body and back down to the feet. This sacred circuit opens all chambers of the heart, all the 4 chambers of the heart, and the high heart we call the 5th heart. So try it one more time. Breathing in from the back of the heart, out the front. Very slow and effortless. From front to back of the heart. From left to right side of the heart. And from right to left. From the bottom up through the center and out the top. And from the top all the way back down and grounding you back in the body. Ishtaba, it's called the breath of eternal life or the house of light. It's how we connect the upper of the crown to the lower of the tail, all the way through the body, and the heart being the rainbow bridge between the upper and the lower. It's a wonderful meditation to do in each of your chakras if you can't sleep at night.
Mm.
Just do it for the first 3 chakras of your body, the root, then up you'll be asleep. It's a cooling, and it cools the spine, relaxes the heart. Thank you for this honored invitation. I hope you all enjoyed this journey that we're all on and come to it with, maybe a better sense of humor and a better spiritual awareness that this has a purpose. And you've come here, you've called it for yourself.